Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've ever lived in a community with a homeowners association, you already know the deal. It can be absolutely fantastic for your property values, but man, it can also be a total minefield for disagreements. Today, we're unpacking some incredible insights from Shelley Bowes on how affordable mediation might just be your ultimate secret weapon for resolving these disputes without losing your mind or completely draining your savings. So, think about your current setup for a second. Are you feeling stuck in a neighborhood dispute right now? We've really got to acknowledge the heavy emotional toll this takes. It is perfectly normal to feel trapped by confusing rules, escalating tensions, and those dreaded violation notices piling up in your mailbox. Your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, right? But when an HOA issue spirals out of control, just pulling into your own driveway can become a source of major anxiety. And your frustration is entirely valid. When we look at what actually triggers these conflicts, it's usually the everyday stuff. We're talking about a trash can left out a little too long, unapproved architectural changes like painting a fence or building a deck, or disagreements over fines and common area upkeep. But here is the biggest takeaway. At the root of almost all of these issues is just a simple misunderstanding of the community's governing documents. One homeowner thinks they're completely following the rules, while the board sees it in a totally different light. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the HOA conflict trap, mediation versus litigation, the steps to take before you mediate, what actually goes down inside the mediation room, and finally, the costs and how to find the right mediator. All right, Section 1, the HOA conflict trap, and how minor disagreements can just completely spiral out of control. So look at the stark contrast here between the nightmare of traditional court litigation and the incredibly empowering option of mediation. On one side, you have litigation. That means going to court. It's incredibly slow, it's highly stressful, and a total stranger, a judge, makes the final decision for you. Plus, it pretty much ruins your neighborly relationships for good. But on the flip side, we have mediation. You and the HOA board sit down and actually figure it out together. It's fast, it's cooperative, and crucially, it preserves those community ties. Moving on to Section 2, mediation versus litigation, where we are looking at the stark reality of the numbers. We really need to pause on this terrifying number right here, $50,000. Honestly, that is what a full-blown lawsuit over an HOA dispute can easily hit. And it doesn't even end there. A lawsuit can drag on for 6 months, 2 years, or even longer. That is tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket and literally years of your life spent in a state of constant, stressful conflict with the people who live right down the street. The data paints an undeniable picture. While litigation completely drains your wallet and steals your time, look at HOA mediation. We're talking maybe $300 to $1,000, and it usually wraps up in just 1 to 4 weeks. Sometimes they even finish in a single day. It's just a vastly superior, cost-effective way to resolve the issue and get back to actually enjoying your home. Which brings us to Section 3, steps before you mediate, or basically, how to take back control of your situation. Before you ever set foot in a mediation room, remember that you have power here. Think of this as your personal prep checklist. First up, review your HOA's governing documents. You need to know the actual rules in question. Then start gathering your evidence. We're talking violation notices, emails, photos, get it all together. Next, write a formal, factual letter. Keep the emotion completely out of it, stick to the facts, and offer realistic solutions. Always, always reply to notices before the deadline to protect yourself. And finally, just ask for a face-to-face board meeting. Honestly, a calm, unemotional conversation following these exact steps might solve the whole thing without a mediator ever needing to get involved. But hey, what if those early steps just don't work? That brings us to Section 4, inside the mediation room. Let's completely demystify this process and look at what to actually expect. The absolute key to this whole thing is the neutral mediator. This is a certified, unbiased third party. And honestly, the most important thing to know is what they do not do. They don't pick sides, and they are definitely not a judge. They don't force any decision on you. Instead, they just guide an open dialogue to help everyone find common ground. It's so vital to understand that a mediator helps you keep control of the outcome rather than a judge stepping in and just stripping all your power away. Now, if you're feeling nervous about walking into that room, don't be. The whole environment is specifically designed to be completely confidential, calm, and professional. Whatever you say stays right there, which means everyone can be totally honest without fear of it being used against them later. And crucially, it's an open dialogue where you will not be interrupted. You finally get a fair space for real talk, where you can present your emails and photos and truly be heard. So, what actually comes out of one of these sessions? Well, the dream scenario is that both sides agree and sign a binding, written contract laying out exactly what happens next. But even if you don't reach a perfect, full agreement in one single day, the process is still incredibly valuable. You're brainstorming realistic outcomes together, you're clearing up deep misunderstandings for the future, and you are successfully narrowing down the big issues. You're laying the essential groundwork for a fair resolution down the line, no matter what. All right, our final section, Section 5, Costs and Finding Mediators. We'll cover affordable options and where to look locally. If you saw those earlier cost estimates and you're still a little stressed about paying for it, I've got fantastic news. Many local court systems, city governments, and nonprofit centers offer mediation programs on a sliding scale based on your income. That means this kind of dispute resolution is accessible to pretty much everyone. They often use highly trained, certified volunteer mediators to help you out for free, or at least for a very, very low cost. So, where do you actually find one of these professionals? You can start with state bar association directories, like the Kansas Bar Association from our source material today. Check out local community dispute resolution centers, or ask your legal counsel for a recommendation. A quick online search for certified professionals works too. And of course, you can look into the source for today's explainer, Shelley Beauty's Mediation, especially if you're around the Johnson County area. When you're looking, just make sure you find someone neutral, with clear communication, and ideally a solid background in real estate or HOA law. You know, Shelley Baus really hits the nail on the head with this quote. Mediation is about keeping relationships good between you, the HOA board, and your neighbors. It is so incredibly easy to get blinded by the anger of a fine or a rule violation, right? But remember, these are the people you literally have to live next to day after day. Preserving those relationships, keeping your community friendly, and avoiding a bitter court battle, that is the real victory here. Which leads me to a big question for you. Are you ready to break the deadlock? If you are sitting in the middle of a stressful neighborhood fight right now, I challenge you to stop the cycle of conflict today. Take a breath, get your documents together, and take that empowering step toward a peaceful, affordable resolution. You don't have to surrender your power to a judge, and you certainly don't have to empty your bank account. You just have to be willing to come to the table. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. The next time you find a notice in your mailbox, remember, you don't have to go to war to find peace. What step will you take today?